Good evening and welcome to the February 3rd Newark Unified School District Board of Education meeting. This week is the start of Black History Month. It originated in 1926 and was formally recognized in the United States in 1976 by then President Gerald Ford and by every sitting president since then. It is a month where we honor, as quoted by President Gerald Ford, the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Thank you. And item 1.1, meeting practices and information. We are holding in-person board meetings at our district boardroom and are following the state and Alameda County safety guidelines for a public gathering. Please refrain from attending in-person meeting if you have COVID-related symptoms. If you are not able to attend the meeting in person, you may observe the meeting via the NUSD YouTube channel, live transmission on Comcast Channel 26, and we do have Spanish translation is available via Zoom. In regards to public comment, the public will have the opportunity to address the board regarding non-agendized matters and agendized items with a live audio-only comment via Zoom with advance notice requested by email at publiccomment@newarkunified.org or a written comment by submitting a speaking card via email at publiccomment@newarkunified.org or with live in-person comments by submitting a speaker card with the executive assistant. And on to item 1.2. Roll call, please, Ms. Croce.
Thank you. Let's see. President Nguyen?
Here.
Thank you. Vice President Grandal?
Here.
Member Hill?
Here.
Member Zhang?
Here.
Member Marquez? Here. And student member is not present. Thank you.
Thank you. So before the approval agenda, I'd just like to thank Vice President Grandal for covering for me on the last board meeting and overseeing the meeting. Thank you so much. So on to item 2.1, approval of the agenda. May I get a motion for approval?
Madam President, I move that we move to approve the agenda.
A second.
Motion made by Member Marquez and seconded by Member Zhang. How do you vote, Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Marquez?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Member Grandel?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So we have 5 ayes. Thank you. On to closed session. Are there any public comments on closed session items?
There are no public comments.
Thank you. In closed session, we will be discussing public employee discipline dismissal release, item 3.3, conference with labor negotiators and employee and organizations, NTA and CSCA, 3.4, conference with labor negotiators, employee group, NUMA, and unrepresented supervisors and contracted management in regards to chief business official. And item 3.5, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. And 3.6, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation. And item 3.7, student expulsion. At this time, we will be recessing to closed session. Thank you. In session. We're sorry, apologize for running late on closed session. Our next item on the agenda is, oh, I'm sorry, and there's nothing to report out on closed session. Our next item is 4.1, Pledge of Allegiance. Please all stand. And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, on to agenda item 5.1. Oh, there is nothing to report out of closed session. And on to item 6.1, student reports from Newark Memorial High School, Alternative Education, and Newark Junior High.
Thank you, President Nguyen, and good evening to the board and staff and public. Ms. Croce, I believe we are starting with Newark Junior High and our two students, is that correct?
That is
Great.
correct. I'm letting them in now. Newark Junior High, you can unmute and you can share with us.
Good evening, board members. My name is Muhammad Lulu, the ASB president of Newark Junior High School. We just had our January Spirit Week, which was last week. To end it off, we had a fun Friday where students could play games and win prizes. Now, we are now having an art contest for our yearbook cover. The winner's artwork will be chosen as the cover, and there will be awards for the runner-ups. Now I'm going to pass it on to Purvi Sharma.
Ms. Portishan is joining us now.
She's saying that she can't unmute.
I'm trying to help her now. There, she should be ready.
Good evening, sorry about that. My name is Purvi Sharma, the ASB Vice President of NJHS. We are also going to sell Valentine grams next week. This includes carnations, plush.
Is the other student muted? Okay.
This includes carnations, plushies, chocolate boxes. We are also going to start elections for.
Can you please, can you turn off your
eighth
video
graders.
while you speak? Thank you. Just turn off your video while you speak and then we won't get that feedback.
We are also going to start elections for 8th grade officers and also for a 9th grade officer for the upcoming school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed and Parvi.
And now I'll share a video from the Alternative Education.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Triplett, board members, and cabinet members. I'm Alexis Blanco Barron. I'm in 10th grade at Bridgepoint. I'm in leadership and also work on tobacco prevention. Last month, Bridgepoint held its second annual student wellness retreat. We practiced mindfulness, took a virtual painting class, and had a staff student softball game. Nearly half of all students surveyed rated the event a 9 or 10 on a 10-point scale. Wasp visited our school Monday and Tuesday. It was a mid-cycle visit and we think it went well. Yesterday, Fiscal held our second quarter awards. One student received perfect attendance for the whole quarter. 6 received high credit earnings award. 19 students were on the honor roll for having a 3-point GPA or higher. Crossroads students received their awards by mail. Berkman has had 5 early graduates. Crossroads had 1 early graduate. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Alexis. And our next student speaker is our student board member, Resendez Ortiz.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. After last month's board meeting, a lot has been happening. A week ago, we successfully had our first town hall regarding gender identity, where other students, administrators, and I discussed how we as a community could be more inclusive towards everyone, especially regarding the opportunity of having gender-neutral bathrooms and respecting everyone's pronouns. I wanted to personally thank Dr. Triplett and Board President Nguyen for attending and being a part of our discussion. Additionally, the ASB class is starting off on Valentine's Day Carnation fundraiser, where we'll be selling roses and candies to be sent to friends. We're also, at the same time, having our second merch fundraiser that started today until Valentine's Day. And last but not least, the class of 2024 is also having a Valentine's Bear fundraiser where they'll be sending adorable teddy bears. So stay tuned for all the beautiful gifts some of y'all will receive. Moving forward from the fundraisers, our hats assembly will be on March 11th during school, but also a second assembly as a night show for parents to watch all the amazing performances. Furthermore, elections are starting next week, so stay tuned for the campaigns. Lastly, to end with, I'd like to honor that this month is Black History Month, and every Friday in the Commons we'll be doing an event to honor Black History Month. This Friday, we will have an I Have a Dream banner where students can write their own hopes and goals to thank the efforts of activists like Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
Thank you, student board member. On to item 7.1, staff spotlight. Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Nguyen. Ms. Croce, can we get the staff spotlight? Here we go. So this board meeting, we wanted to do a unique staff spotlight and really honor all of our school office staff for the incredible work that they've had to do with regard to keeping the schools safe and doing close contact tracing, group tracing. So we have 2 slides. Can we go to the first one, please, Ms. Croce? So this is a list of all of our elementary school office staff, and just wanted to, again, really appreciate the incredible work that they're doing well above and beyond with all of the phone calls and the communications home and the supporting students with testing, et cetera. So these are our elementary school office staff, both office managers and office clerks and site community liaisons. And if we can go to the next slide. And this is in our secondary schools, our office staff, which includes office managers, registrars, attendance clerks, other support, and data technicians. So again, just want to really appreciate, and I'll talk more about COVID update in the superintendent report, but really want to honor these folks who are in the front lines and are really doing amazing work supporting families, students, and staff.
Sorry about that. On to item 8.1, public comments on non-agenda items.
Thank you. We have a public comment from Mr. Eric Tam. Mr. Tam, you may begin.
Board, I wanted to just comment on last meeting's exchange in regard to the auditing committee's charter between Dr. Triplett and Member Hill. After reading the charter, I can see why there was a misunderstanding between Member Hill and Dr. Triplett. Reviewing the charter with two different individuals who are familiar with Ed Code, they both had differing interpretations too. First, Member Hill, I don't think Dr. Triplett had a malicious intent in terms of what you communicated. However, I personally do agree with your interpretation of the committee chart. Second, Dr. Triplett, I wanted to ask, why did we not put Ms. Lynn Klein for a board approval vote in January of 2021 per the first line of the committee charter, where it states that every other year on the first board meeting that a candidate must be approved by the board? I understand that in the following paragraph, there is a line that says that the termination date is per either a board approval or sorry, board appointment or the latter of the 2 years termination. So Dr. Triplett, I'm sure that the staff must have told you that previous board members and staff did vote specifically to reapprove Ms. Klein in 2019. And unfortunately, there was no board docs for 2017. So what I found in 2019, the past president had interpreted that the board approval is required instead of an automatic renewal. So Dr. Triplett and Member Hill, I know you have disagreeing interpretations of the audit committee charter. So I hope that, the board would have at least approved Member Hill's request to get a legal opinion, So I do not understand why that was such a disagreement amongst the board where nobody wanted to second the motion. From an objective, logical reason, if there is a disagreement between the interpretation of a document and Dr. Triplett breaking, I guess, or not breaking, but going against past precedent, then wouldn't you want a legal opinion on how to interpret the charter? So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tam. There are no other public comments on non-agenda items. So we will move on to item 9.1, employee organization. Superintendent Triplett.
I believe, Ms. Croce, are we starting with NTA and Ms. Sherry Villa?
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Triplett and Board President Nguyen and board members. It's going to be light tonight. Nothing. I have two thank yous to give out tonight, so all's good. Don't worry. All right. So the first thank you that I have goes out to our Executive Director of Human Resources, Ms. Ingham Waters. Meeting dates have been set, and NTA is looking forward to working with NUSD on creating an MOU regarding the voluntary and involuntary reassignments and transfers of our NTA members during the 6th grade transition into middle school and for the closure of Music Elementary School. The second thank you that I have goes out to our president, NTA president, Mr. Sean Abruzzi. Thank you are two words that I know Mr. Abruzzi does not hear often enough. So for all of the time and energy that you give to us as being our president of NTA, thank you, Sean Abruzzi, and that's all I have. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Villa. And do we have our CSEA speaker tonight?
Ms. Eustace will not be with us tonight.
Okay, and then our NUMA representative?
Yes, Ms. Castaneda Leal, Dr. Wendy will be joining us
Thank you.
via Zoom.
President Nguyen, Board of Trustees, and Executive Cabinet members. This month we observe Black History Month, Chinese New Year, Rosa Parks Day, and many more different holidays. We are a nation of diverse cultures, religion, history, and ethnicities, and need to make an effort to acknowledge, respect, and support our diversities and those of others. NUSD leaders would also like to remind everyone that February is a month where we start testing students again to determine their growth throughout the school year. Elementary schools are starting their second diagnostic for iReady, DRA, and other assessments. Our English learners will begin their LPAC testing. Our DLI classes will begin their baseline assessments in literacy skills. As leaders, we have seen our students, parents, and community stand tall throughout these times of challenge and controversy. We continue to lead our schools, our community, and always our students at the forefront. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Wendy. On to item 10.1, Superintendent Report. Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, President Nguyen. So this evening we have a couple items to discuss. There we go. You can go ahead and move forward. First of all, I too would like to just acknowledge Black History Month. I've had a chance to be in classes and schools this week and seen examples of the celebration of Black History Month, and so that's been really nice. This, in particular, I wanted to just call out a quote from one of my heroes, Frederick Douglass. If there's no struggle, there is no progress. And I think it really speaks to the challenge of the work that we are in here, and the change that we're trying to impact. And I think all of us know how hard it is to make that kind of change. And so I really appreciate his words here. So I wanted to speak a little bit about the enrollment process. We are kicking off our enrollment season. Very excited. We can go to the next slide. And so this is our timeline of enrollment. So on January 10th, we opened and invited applications for the dual language program. And then starting next week, February 8th, is our priority placement window for enrollment. So it's approximately 1 month. And then we move into regular open enrollment from March 17th on. So I just wanted to speak briefly about priority placement. This is something that we began last year in an effort to really try to encourage families to enroll early, because when families are enrolling early, then it enables us to know the number of students that will be enrolled, and therefore helps us with staffing. And when we don't learn about enrollment until very late in the year, then it makes staffing very difficult. So the priority placement window, anyone new coming in can enroll, and during that window, they get priority in their home school. In addition to elementary school transfers are also prioritized during this window. So once the window closes, then the enrollment office places all of the students from the applicants up until March 11th, and then we reopen the window to open enrollment on March 17th, and then we continue to place students as they come. But really, there's an incentive for families and students to engage in the priority placement window, so that they get the option that they most want. In terms of COVID-19, so just some quick updates here. You've probably been reading in the news that the Omicron surge seems to be receding, and you can see that reflected here in our data. So this is as of last week, at January 24th through the 30th. You can see that we are seeing a decline in positive cases, although still extremely high, but the lowest point that we've had since the new year. Likewise for the staff cases, which are still very high, but in the decline. So we're optimistic based on what the public health department is saying, that we are seeing we're over the peak of this surge and headed in the right direction. Want to just reiterate, we do have our student testing, weekly testing in every school. Of course, it's parent and guardian consent is required, and anyone can complete the online consent form. Not anyone, sorry, parents or guardians can complete the online consent form to be able to enroll their child in the testing program. And we are, per state guidelines, we are prioritizing exposed, unvaccinated, asymptomatic students. So anyone can get tested, but those are the students that we are prioritizing for testing. And of course, there's no cost to families, for any families who are being tested. And this is our schedule. Just once again, you can see every school has testing once a week, and then our secondary schools, Newark Junior High and Newark Memorial, have it twice a week. McGregor campus also has it once a week. However, McGregor campus has the daily testing at Whiteford that they can also take advantage of. So moving on to other items, we had our first middle school design town hall last night. We had about 137 people attended, very good attendance. And the goal was to provide an update on progress on our planning process, and then also to get input from the community. And so we shared the members of the design team that you see here, which is really an amazing group, including students, parents, teachers, other staff, counselors, principals, and district office support. And some of these members were presented and supported at the design team, or the town hall itself. One of the things that was shared is the work of the design team in creating a collective sixth grade vision. So we had students had taken a really strong role in that, and they were able to read the vision statement to the community and get some feedback. And that vision is based in the graduate profile, which, as you recall, the board approved last year after a year-long process, stakeholder engagement process, which included literally hundreds of people weighing in and giving input. And so we are basing the design of the sixth grade transition on this profile of a graduate as well. So we really want to make sure that we are supporting students to graduate as critical thinkers, creative problem solvers, effective communicators with integrity, resilience, and empathy. And I won't read the whole vision statement, but it's available for you all to read, and we also will be posting it on the website. I think it's really nice, really solid. So some of the important components that we shared last night, and again, this isn't the complete plan. This is just some things that we really wanted to, some initial things that we really wanted to share, and some fundamental foundational components of this new sixth grade that I think families are really eager to know and hear about. One of them being that the sixth grade will be divided into families or houses, that's small learning communities, so that it's not just the entire sixth grade that has classes together, but smaller groups of students and cohorts that will share classes, and that in that way really be able to build relationships and strong support from a smaller group of teachers. We also shared last night about elective wheel, so sharing out different electives that students will be able to take advantage of. Also a structure called coring. So all of the students in sixth grade, unlike seventh and eighth grade, they will have the same teacher for English and history, and then a different teacher for math and science. So in elementary, as you know, the students have one core teacher, and then in sixth grade now, they'll have two core teachers in addition to PE and electives. So it's a transition to then seventh and eighth grade where they have more than two teachers, and in high school where they're going to different teachers and with different students every period. The other two important design elements that we shared is, number one, the advisory. So prioritizing social emotional development in the curriculum by having a daily advisory, so sixth graders will experience that. And then lastly, something that has been a really strong interest of families is that the sixth grade will have their own wing. So their own area that's sixth grade only. Of course, they will interact across the whole school, but all their classes, their core classes will be in one area. And that way, that'll really help with the small learning community feel. So down there at the bottom, you see site visits. Part of the design team work is visiting other middle schools, successful middle schools in the area. We were hoping to do that in January, but because of Omicron, that did not happen. And so we're still working through whether or not we're going to actually make that more of a virtual visit with different schools in the area, or whether we still will be able to go on actual visits to other schools. And then we also shared, I won't go through this whole thing, but we shared what a day in the life of a Newark sixth grade middle schooler could look like. So giving families and students just a sense of what the day would look like. This is something that the parents on the design team thought would be a really good idea to share sort of what the structure would be. And then lastly, we talked to at the town hall about electives. And we had brainstormed a list with our students on the team and teachers and parents. And so we shared the list with at the town hall and then did a polling to hear from the town hall members some of the different priorities that they had for electives. All of them, with the goal of all of them being really aligned to our 4 district priorities around science, technology, aerospace, robotics, environmental literacy, dual language immersion, and visual and performing arts. And then lastly, I did want to touch upon this. This was not part of our presentation last night, but there were questions that, that some of the audience members had about special education and how that was going to look in the middle school. So we actually had planned that out last year and have continued to develop it in this current year. I think that I shared with the board last spring the design of the programs across the whole district in special education. So just wanted to reiterate that here, and then we'll continue to share out. So the Newark Junior High, which will be the middle school, will have Resource Specialist Program, RSP is what we call that. They will also have classes in special day classes, both the mild moderate program as well as the moderate severe program. And then also therapeutic programs for special day classes. So all that is going to be available not just for the 7th and 8th graders, but also the 6th graders in the upcoming school year. And then on there, we do see the programs planned for the other secondary schools as well. And actually, I think just in the interest of time, we can skip over. This is, maybe 1 second. Maybe we won't skip over. This is the timeline that I believe I've shared with the board relatively quickly in the past, but we shared this last night. This articulates the different actions that are being taken both by the design team as well as by staff during the different months. And so you can see in January and February, these are the things that we are working on. And then if you go to the next slide, so our next steps, continuing to meet with the design team twice monthly and continuing that work. More additional community engagements are planned in the spring. We have a number of different town halls that we will conduct. Meeting and communicating with staff. In fact, tomorrow we're going to be meeting with the junior high teachers to discuss the design and get their input. And then, like I said before, site visits to other middle schools, and then also planning out the fall orientation for our incoming 6th and 7th graders. And then we did give a survey out last night. Got a lot of responses, so we're still working through that data to see, to get feedback from the community from the town hall. And that is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent Triplett. Board members, do you have any questions or comments for the superintendent?
So, I guess, is there any additional communication to the SDC class for the special needs kids? Because obviously one of the things we heard, I did attend last night's town hall. I think one of the feedback is that some people said that there are not that much content related to the SDC.
Yeah, sorry, so what is the question, board member?
The question is, are we going to have additional communication to the special ed students when it comes to transitioning to this middle school?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So all placement of students that have IEPs is done through the IEP process. And so that's something that happens throughout the spring to discuss one-on-one based on individual student needs, what's the appropriate program for them.
Go ahead, Member Marquez.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My question is, at what point will the meetings be more frequent? That way we assure that the goals that are being placed and are actually being met, and that it's as seamless possible transition for the families. I see that currently we're showing the 2 months, but at what point would we accelerate?
You're saying accelerate meetings?
Yes, so that we're making sure so that weekly, or are we doing bi-weekly versus every 2 months to assure the families and to make sure that everything is in place so that we kick off on the positive.
Yeah, so we meet weekly about the middle school design as a staff. And then Every other week, we have the middle school design team meet. So that was that large.
So that's completely separate. Okay, that's
yeah.
my misunderstanding. I appreciate
Yeah,
the clarity.
but then we will continue to have town hall meetings to share out progress throughout the spring, and then also be regularly reporting to the board about the progress as well.
Thank you.
Great. Member Hill?
Thank you, Dr. Triplett, for the presentation. So question, when we were putting together last year when we were putting together goals for this year, and we were talking about the middle school project, we also talked about the importance of putting a robust project plan in place. And I know that when other districts have done this kind of thing, oftentimes, like in Fremont, I think it took them a couple years to actually do this. And so there's lots of moving parts. And in my experience with projects like this, you have to have a very detailed plan. And oftentimes, it's easily a couple hundred line items in your plan. And with something this big, with so many moving parts, I mean, easily 1,000 line items. And that's how you make sure that you don't miss anything and you don't, end up having a problematic, go live or launch or whatever you want to call it. So when can we expect to see a detailed plan that's going to help us track and make sure we're not missing anything?
Yes, thank you. So we have a timeline that I shared out, and it does have the action items on it, planned out by month. But we also have what we call a Gantt chart that has even more detail. And I'm happy to share that with the board if the board would like a presentation on that level of detail.
Yeah, I think the Gantt chart will be very visual and very helpful. Gantt chart is probably a very common water flow model for most of the project management.
Right.
Thank you.
Member Grindell?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you, Superintendent Triplett. I think we do have consensus on the Gantt chart for the progress of the junior high, middle school design. Thank you.
Do we want to bring it back, maybe in the crest section, just so we can
Yes, we will bring
follow
it
the
back.
process?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, on to item 11.1, Governor's proposed 2022-2023 budget. Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to our Chief Business Official, Ms. Marie Dela Cruz, talk a little bit about the governor's budget that just came out in the last, has it been a month, Ms. Dela Cruz?
Yes.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. So, good evening, Board. On or around January 10th, the governor released his budget for the 22-23 fiscal year. And since then, staff, we've attended workshops with School Services of California and capital advisors, as well as the county, to get a little bit more information on the governor's budget. So I'm just going to go through some of the highlights of the budget and the impact at Newark Unified School District. Next slide. So the state budget right now looks really good. It has a general fund with a surplus of $45.7 billion. And these increases include projections, from personal income tax and sales and use tax, which are the two of the biggest three taxes in the state. The governor's budget has significant reserves in the budget stabilization account, which is also known as our rainy day fund, and also the public school system stabilization account. Even though there's a lot of positive indicators, there's still also a lot of economic uncertainty due to the unpredictability of COVID-19. Inflation is a big factor. As you know, the cost of everyday goods and services continue to rise. And the Federal Reserve's response to inflation, including interest rate, could impact our stock market. So this is the projection dartboard, which shows you what the COLA, cost of living adjustment, is projected for the next 4 years. In 22-23, they're now looking at a higher COLA of 5.33. At first interim, this was at 2.48%, so there's a slight increase. Also in 23-24, it's looking at 3.61%, and then 24-25 at 3.64, just slightly higher than what was presented at first interim. But even though, remember, COLA is looking a little higher, there's also a lot of projected cost increases that are facing our district in terms of employer retirement contribution rates. So in the governor's proposal, there was no change in the CalPERS or the CalSTRS rates. There was no relief presented. And so for the next 4 or 5 years, we're looking at a total of almost a 5% increase in CalPERS. From this year to next year, it's about 3.2%. And then CalSTRS, the same thing, no relief for CalSTRS. It remains the same. And this year, the rate, the employer contribution rate, this is the rate that we contribute to our employees' retirement, is 16.92%. And next year, it's projected to be at 19.1, which is a 2.18% increase. So this is an added burden to our expenditures. And then the local control funding formula, this is where they apply the projected 5.33% COLA. So in that second row, it shows you that our increase to our LCFF base grant will be about $431 up to $522, depending on the grade span. So in looking at ADA, this is the biggest impact to most school districts because all of the school districts in the state have been held harmless for the last couple of years where we've been able to use our 1920 ADA for funding. And so for 22-23, there's a big gap with ADA, and a lot of the school districts that are in declining enrollment will see a significant change in their budget. So the good thing is the governor and the legislature, they're listening and they're considering a couple of different options. So this just shows you, again, what's happening throughout the state, and the declining enrollment is not just our district, but it's in all districts across our state. And the ADA to enrollment percentage has also gone down. The rate that children are attending school is also on the decline. And for our district, we normally have 97 to 98% ADA to enrollment percentage, and this past P1 ADA report, we are at 93%. So we're down about 4 to 5 percentage points. So currently, the law allows us to use our current year ADA or prior year ADA for funding purposes, whichever one is higher. So if our prior year ADA is higher than this year, then we're able to use our prior year ADA for funding. And what the governor is proposing is that we use the greater of the current year ADA, the prior year ADA, or computed average using the prior 3 years of ADA. So here's an example, a hypothetical scenario for school districts. For 1920 and 2021, you see where the actual ADA is the same, 10,000 because of the hold harmless rule. And then in 21-22, if actual ADA is 9,500 and 22-23, it's 9,250. With the governor's proposal, under the current law, the funded ADA would be the 9,500, which is the higher of the prior year or current year. And then the governor's proposal of the 3-year would be 9,833, which is the average of the 3 years prior ADA, which is a difference of 333 more ADA. In terms of Newark Unified, next slide, please. So this 1920, our actual ADA was 5,483, and for the hold harmless rule, we were able to use that same ADA in 2021. And in 21-22, this is our actual ADA since December was our reporting period, was 4,794. And then our projection for 22-23 is 4,700. So in this case, you can see that under current law, we would be using 4,794 as our ADA for funding. But under the governor's proposal, our ADA would be at 5,253, which is 459 difference, which is pretty significant because if you estimate 10,000 per ADA, that's about $4.5 million. Right now, with our current law, our district funding would be based on the 4,794 ADA, which is 689 less than our 21-22 ADA of 5,483. So that is even higher. It's estimated at $6.8 million because our actual ADA is actually lower than what we had estimated at first interim. Because at first interim, the assumption was that our ADA would be 5,045 this year. So we're really hoping that the governor's 3-year average would go through because it would increase our funding. And with that, we would also increase our assumption and improve our deficit that was projected for 22-23. And just to note, there are a couple of bills also, in addition to the governor's proposal, basing funding on either enrollment or continuing with the hold harmless. Independent study is going to be an option for next year. There's still some questions about whether it will be mandated. In the recent trailer bill that just came out, apparently the mandate is not included, but there's still some questions around how record keeping is going to be kept, and as well as how synchronous instruction is going to be part of the instructional time. Universal meals will continue to be provided for free breakfast and lunch regardless of eligibility for next year. Special ed is looking at another 5.3% increase as well. So the base rate for 22-23 will be increased about $105 per ADA. And then universal TK, the governor is pushing through with his plan to have TK 4-year-olds to be allowed to be enrolled through by 25-26. So for next year, the span is going to February. Right now, it's December, and then the following year, the TKs whose 5th birthday occurs between September to April will be included, and then by 24-25, it'll be all 4-year-olds that turn 5 between September to June. So the good thing is the governor is providing additional funding, and this will be on top of our base ADA. So we'll be receiving some additional funds for the TKs. They're also providing $2,813 to provide the 12-to-1 adult to student ratio. It's okay, can I live it?
I thought I went backwards and I did not.
Slide 16.
Thank you.
To next, that's TK. Just a note about the LCAP and the LCAP supplement. There will be an update that's due by the end of the month. And then next, schools facility program, there'll be some funding, about $490 million for construction of new school facilities or retrofitting existing school facilities for preschool, transitional kindergarten, and full-day kindergarten. And also some funding for some existing applications that are unfunded right now. There's a lot of districts that have applied for modernization and new construction dollars that are waiting in line to be funded. So they're going to provide some funding, $200 million for that. Timeline for the certificated and classified layoffs. The March 15th deadline is for both classified and certificated this year, so no later than March 15th. The preliminary layoff notices have to be served. And then before May 15th, final notices are served. And in May, the governor will also present a May revision. And by June 30th, the state budget should be enacted. Thank you to School Services for allowing us to use these slides. And if there are any questions or comments, I'd be happy to.
Student board members?
Various. Unfortunately, I am not familiar with a lot of the short-term names such as LCFF and ADA, so I would like to stay down for future meetings if we could please maybe set aside a little, this is what it stands for, because I've been spending the majority of the meeting Googling.
Yeah.
Additionally, I would like some clarification when it comes to the ADA cliff of the impact on our district. I figured that the ADA means the average daily attendance, and I saw the numbers were in the 5,000s, and I was wondering, what does that mean?
Yeah, that means that that's the number of students that attend school on the average on a daily basis. So it's not enrollment. Our enrollment was about 5,600 back then, but our average daily attendance was 5,483, because not 100% of our students attend school every day.
This was pre-COVID, or this is right now?
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
1920. Mm-hmm.
And we're going off of, off of the governor's proposal, which is 5,000. Does this include sick days when students are out for COVID? Does that count as an excused absence? Like, are excused absences something important here, or?
Yeah, excused absences are considered as part of the ADA. They count.
As
unexcused do not.
All right. Thank you.
Member Zhang? Member Marquez, any questions, comments?
None at this time. Thank you for asking.
Member Hill? Member Grindel?
Just wanted to ask about the certificated and classified layoffs and such. We hear in the media about a teacher shortage and the need to recruit new teachers. And we're also we're hearing about this cliff about enrollment. And is there anything you can sort of add to explain sort of that difference between the perceived teacher shortage and the potential need to reduce the number of teachers given the reduced enrollment?
Yeah, I can start, and then Ms. Del Cruz, feel free to chime in. Yes, in some ways, it's the distinction between now and next year, because currently there's a teacher shortage, but currently we are being funded based on pre-COVID numbers. And so we have actually more teachers or more teaching positions than we do students to actually fill those classes. So what that means is that for the upcoming school year, we are going to have to make some really hard decisions because we simply don't have the number of students to justify the number of teachers. So teachers there's a shortage, and unfortunately we are going to have to make some hard decisions because we did not reduce our teaching staff this year out of just being conscious of the transition back to in-person learning. Did you want to add anything there, Ms. Del Cruz?
Yes. So just like Dr. Triplett said, there's a difference between staffing and loading our classes based on previous year's enrollment, and then now right-sizing to the actual enrollment. Because we've been using our 1920 and 2021 numbers to load our classes, but our enrollment is actually lower.
I understand, and just to clarify, some of the reduction in teaching positions are actually now vacant positions. I'm talking about macro, not necessarily in Newark, but there are those missing. So there'll be a reduction in positions, but there may be an offsetting number of those positions actually being not filled at the moment.
On a macro level, yeah, that's definitely possible. The other challenge is, of course, that there's certain teaching positions that are very hard to staff. So no matter what, we can expect special education is very hard to staff. PE is actually very hard to staff. Spanish language classes, science and math traditionally. So yeah, it's no matter how much layoffs need to happen in any district, there is also going to be hard to fill positions.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess historically, oftentimes when we do position reduction, oftentimes the number of people that actually lost their jobs is very minimal because you have both reduction in vacant position and also attrition. So if you combine attrition and vacant position, the actual people getting impacted is smaller than the number you declared.
Thank you. That's what I was getting at. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have one quick question in terms of the school facility program. How often does our district in particular apply for any of the funding? And if I know that this year, I think for the first round of proposed is April 1st, 2022. Will we be able to make any or apply for any of that one-time money?
Yeah, we will certainly look into it.
Okay.
If there's an opportunity to apply for this funding. As far as how often, I have not seen an application in any, at least in any of the files that I've looked at in the last 5 years. So,
all right. Thank you.
Yeah, we're not on the list of unfunded. That's.
I think we need to be a little bit more proactive. And because obviously the reason why I'm thinking that is that we've done so much capital improvement through our facilities the last 2 years. And if there is one-time money designated by the state, we should actually pursue it and see if we can get some of that fund to fix additional stuff at the high school, like the pool, or at the junior high for the track and field, or anything like that. So those are the things that we should probably look at. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. It's a great program. It's usually a 50-50 program where the state will provide 50% and the district matches.
Great. Thank you.
Can I
Go ahead.
just the 250 million set aside statewide is really just a drop in the bucket of the need. So so my understanding is the governor's office is planning to only address projects that are already on the list, except for, of course, facilities that are needed for the pre-K, the TK. But you just wanted to indicate 250 million across the state. I mean, that's like 10 schools.
Correct.
For the whole state. And anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Grindal.
Okay, so on to our next item, which is 12.2, expulsion stipulation for E2122-17. Dr. Triplett?
I move that we approve the expulsion stipulation agreement.
I second the motion.
Motion made by Member Zhang and seconded by Member Marquez. How do you vote, Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Marquez?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Member Grindal?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, 5 ayes. Thank you. Okay, on to item 13.1, expanded learning opportunity program plan. Dr. Triplett?
Thank you, President Nguyen. I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Pierce, and I believe also our Director of Special Projects, Ms. Abby Cairns.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. Ms. Cairns is going to come talk to us about the Extended Learning Opportunity Program for this upcoming year.
Good evening, Board, Trustees, Dr. Triplett, and the Executive Cabinet. I'm Abby Cairns. Good to see you all again, Director of Special Projects. And so the presentation is going to go over a few things. One is going to be the overview of the fund itself and its purpose, the timeline for the development of the plan, a visual representation of the schedule of the after-school program and the summer school program, and a review of how we plan to monitor the partnership, which I know is important to the Board. So next slide, please. So the summary of the funding. So the purpose of this fund is to provide access to comprehensive expanded learning for all unduplicated students in elementary school, that's TK6. And this is outlined in AB 130. The target group, all TK6 students, which are unduplicated, that means unhoused English learner or foster youth students. The duration of the current fund that we've received is actually for 21-22 school year as a startup, but the money will continue beyond that. It will actually be, let's see, in the 22-23 school year, the ELOP will be fully incorporated into the principal apportionment. And then, so the allocation currently for this year, we are receiving $1,083,491, and that is around $672 per unduplicated pupil according to the ADA. So our reporting responsibility will be annual on the expenditures and will be due September 30th of each year. So I just want to point out, sorry, about the that this, similar to Educator Effectiveness Grant, these funds came out of an assembly bill. And so we did not pursue the funds. They're given to schools, and therefore the governor determines the targets, the monitoring, the requirements, et cetera. And so we're just super excited to be able to expand the after-school and summer school opportunities to families. So our timeline here, so similar to the Educator Effectiveness Funds, we were informed in October, late October, of the opportunity. In early November, we met and unpacked the funding opportunity and the timeline. We met actually a lot with ACOE to get further clarifications on what was expected in the implementation. We consulted with after-school providers in November, December, and I think there was a question about this. So we consulted with Ohlone for Kids as well as Think Together. We also then now developing the draft plan and presenting to you this evening, and the hope is to launch the ELOP program and expand it this year, but also into the summer, and continue building our partnerships with other arts nonprofits. So now just a quick visual of the expansion just for this year. So I want to note that services, again, we're going to TK6. So for Schilling, Coyote Hills, and we'll be adding Lincoln Elementary this year. We'll have the regular school day for the K6 group going till 2:30, and then around 2:30 to 6 will be Think Together. And then also available to TK after 12:30 until 6. So I want to pause there. I was able to get an estimated cost from Think Together for this, which will not presented to the board tonight, but will be presented next meeting at a contract, and the estimate is around $115,000 for this year. For next year's extended day, we are going to be expanding the TK6 after-school program to all schools, serving those students. And this is in order to meet the expectation that the governor has set, which is that all students who are unduplicated have access to an after-school program. So it will look a little bit like this. So similar design, obviously at the elementary level, and then adding Newark Junior High School, where the service will start from 3 to 6. And then a quick view into summer. Summer school at Schilling will be a TK5 summer school enrichment program, going from 8:30 to 12:30 of academics, and then 12:30 to 5:30 of enrichment. Will be a 4-week program. The first 2 weeks, we will be happy to also offer SEAL, which is our intensive academic literacy program, and students will receive access to that about 2 hours a day. And then we're also working right now on developing additional partners with nonprofits, local arts nonprofits, to be able to provide maybe by week an extra enrichment opportunity for them. And lastly, monitoring. So we're happy to, if we are able to partner with Think Together, there's a very good quality continuous improvement program that they follow. So the process goes like this. They have the site level quality improvement team, which is identified and includes district leaders, as well as site leaders and their own staff. We collect 3 points of data. So one is the use of a quality self-assessment tool, Think Together's program assessment, and then feedback from families, students, and the site leaders themselves. And then lastly, that we do a development of improvement strategies based on that data in order to respond to findings. Lastly, we, of course, will be monitoring the enrollment of our UPP students to ensure that the program is actually getting to the students that are targeted by the expansion of this fund. And that is it. But would love to answer any questions that you have.
Student board member, do you have any questions?
I did have a question. I was looking at, well, scrolling more likely, through EC section 8482.6. And I was curious to know if any of these programs, such as Think Together, would cost any fees towards the families. And I was reading that it won't cost any families whose pupils are eligible for free or reduced priced meals. Do families know this? Because I know, well, I'm not sure.
So no families will be charged for engaging in after school currently. And that is regardless of whether or not their status is as an unduplicated pupil or a student that receives free or reduced lunch. The program does allow for us to choose to charge if we so choose. And I think our intention is to provide it for free for any family for as long as we can. Our responsibility, as outlined in this, is to make sure there's seats available for any unduplicated student that chooses to join.
All right, thank you.
Member Zhang?
Yeah, I guess this question is somewhat answered before the meeting. So I asked about the funding formula. I guess it's based on ADA and also the unduplicate counts. So can you talk about more about the focus area where this money is going to be invested in?
Sure. What I noticed in the plan is it covers a broad range of areas that include social emotional learning, academic support, enrichment. So I think what we're looking forward to is that the program that Think Together provides does touch on a lot of these areas, but also creates an opportunity for us to add more to the table.
I also want to,
Yeah.
Go ahead. This was a team effort, as you can tell.
This funding is focused on the unduplicated pupil population, so it's the English learners, the low income, free and reduced meal eligibility, and foster youth and homeless. So that's the focus group of students
And in terms
in
of
TK6.
In terms of services, they really, a big part of it is really taking into account programs that you already have existing, especially the partnership with the ACES grant that we have. So really it's continuing and enhancing the dollars that we already receive for our ACES grants, which already funds Think Together.
And if I could just add to that as well, I think it was mentioned in the presentation, but these funds can't be used for during the day school time. It has to be after school, weekends, summer. It's not the regular school day.
I guess another sort of small question. Today, I actually learned that the assistant superintendent is also called chief academic officer. Is that right?
Member Marquez.
Yes, thank you. My question is with regard to the intent seal, as well as on the last page, the ELOP plan, it states Educational Code Section 8482-3, where it says under subpoint A, that an educational and literacy element in which tutoring or homework assistance is provided in one or more of the following areas, which is our primary or core, correct? The language arts, the math, the history, and the social science. So my question is, who specifically for Think Together? Is it certificated staff? Are there teachers that are in preparation to be, or are these students or college students, or is it someone who's a sub who's in preparation and certification and they're servicing their students, or which is the population that Think Together is providing to actually provide these services for our students after school?
Great, I can answer, and then feel free to jump in, Ms. Cairns. So Think Together is an after-school officially after-school program. And so after-school programs are generally like nonprofit organizations. They don't have certification requirements. So these aren't certified teachers. Oftentimes, people in after-school programs are students, people fresh out of college that then are maybe interested in getting into education. And so it's often a really great recruitment space because you have people who are interested in working with students, really dedicated to it. They try it out, and then you can really see how they do with students in the after-school program, and then support them to get into a credentialing program and go on from there.
I think Schilling has in fact recruited a few paraeducators that way.
As when I was principal, that was one of my main recruiting tools, was getting former students to become mentors in the after-school program, and then from the after-school program, supporting those folks to go for a teaching certification.
But they aren't certificated, and the guidance does sort of emphasize, it says literacy elements educational, and then says something about tutoring and homework assistance, and that is definitely a structured part of what Think Together provides in the afternoon. It's usually the first thing that they do is they kind of get kids organized around their homework, go through their responsibilities, help give any assistance, kind of guidance, mentorship that they can offer, and helping the student complete the work, and then they do other activities and sort of community builders.
So then, for example, let's say it's summer school, right? And our summer school runs, let's say, 8:30, 11:30.
Yes.
ACES, or in this case, the ELOP program would not kick in until after that, right? Right after the lunch, the meal that's being provided, right? Because during the summer, and then right after that, they would move into this, and then this structured plan, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Member Hill?
Thank you, Ms. Carnes. So a few questions, and so I'll just roll them off. The first one is, So is this an expansion of an existing program, or is it a new program? So that's question number one. Question number two is this like a turnkey, program where essentially, we purchase Think Together services and then they come in and there's really no staff or there's no real additional resource requirements from the district's perspective. So that's question number two. And then question number three is this $1 million, is this per year? Or is it over some period of time? And is this going to be a consistent source of funding? So those are my three questions.
So I would say that expanded is correct, but also there will be new elements. So for example, the direction is that we are to design a comprehensive after-school program that includes what we currently have, which is called the ACES after-school program, as well as this new ELOP. So in order to maintain the comprehensive, unified approach, we wanted to expand with Think Together first. However, that being said, I think there is an opportunity to create some new elements and bring in more families who may be interested in something like arts integration or some humanities experiences, cultural experiences for their students. So I think we're trying to both expand and sort of add. We will learn a lot over the next year, I think, and the point of the plan is actually to revise. It's supposed to be a living document. We're directed to revise it every 3 years. We can revise it more frequently than that, but that is part of the plan. In terms of turnkey.
Sorry, Ms. Kearns, can I just jump in for a second? Just to be clear, because maybe it's not clear to everybody. We do already have Think Together at 3 sites, and that is through this ACES funding, which is from the state. But ACES only gives us funding for these 3 sites, and so this would allow us to expand it across all of our elementary schools. So currently it's at Schilling and Coyote Hills, and then at the junior high. Sorry, Ms. Cairns, you want to go to the next part?
Sorry, I didn't pause.
And then and the expansion, it's to these new schools. It's the same thing, it's just new schools, or is it additional program elements?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's the same organization, obviously, and same structure, but part of what we can do when we partner with an after-school provider is we can dictate is a strong word, but we can sort of, I'm going to say it. We can dictate what kind of programs they offer. So, for example, if we're a music program in the after school is really what we want them to prioritize, we can articulate that to them, and then they can then staff for that and sort of build that program. Or sometimes an after-school provider actually then partners with another organization that's very specific to, say, music or dance or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So turnkey, they do provide certain types of staffing up front. They also provide materials and supplies. They don't provide snacks. That is child nutrition. It does come from us, and then additional costs may be custodial. So those would be the additional things you might see.
And the $1 million is per year?
Yes, and it may actually increase. I think that's what you're going to say, Marie.
Yeah, the ELOP funding is ongoing.
Okay.
So this year it's $1 million. Next year it may increase.
Okay.
And we don't, in the current $1 million that we're receiving, we don't have to fully expend it until June 2023.
We have a grace period.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think I answered all your questions.
Member Grandel?
Yes, I'm very excited about this. There's been certain aspects of our education we've been missing. I'm thinking about instrumental music, and so it seems to me, and you can, I'll turn this into a question. Is an expansion of instrumental music potentially part of this, and likewise, is there a way for us to be coordinating with our existing really wonderful robotics programs and rocketry programs, and sort of use this kind of approach to build upon something that's already working rather than doing something duplicated?
Yes. Well, then maybe Dr. Triplett, you can be.
Yeah,
more-
the only caveat there is we're not allowed to use it for 7th grade through 12th grade, unfortunately. So we could start a 6th grade rocketry or 5th grade robotics, but unfortunately it's only, is it kindergarten through 6th? TK through 6th.
Well, even then, that's a farm system, and perhaps groups like the Educational Foundation can help to carry that program forward. So, thank you.
I guess Member Grindal really think about music highly after listening to my piano performance.
Yes, I did.
If I can make a suggestion, I just wanted to share that this last summer I was able to actually witness what we're planning in full action through the North Monterey County Office of Education at their actual middle school located in Castroville, and it was very well ran. And if we have the opportunity of possibly make a visit, because my understanding they're going to continue the element of really supporting and making that difference between what the actual summer school academics were and the classes were offered, that break, the meal, and then their recesses, if we will, and then the support staff that was offering the after-school enrichment and the ACES program as well. So if I can make that recommendation, it's North Monterey County Office of Ed, their Castroville Middle School.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Marquez. And then I just have one last question for Ms. Kern. In terms of like the availability or how many seats are going to be available at each site, how many students will be able to serve at each site?
This year, the addition of Lincoln will have 75 additional seats. We currently have a similar number, we currently are serving 91 students at Schilling and 92 students at Coyote Hills, and there are more available seats at those schools. So when I ran the numbers on how many unduplicated students are currently served and the seats that we have filled now, and 78 of those numbers are unduplicated students. We're hoping to catch more unduplicated students as we expand.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah. Actually, one more question. Yeah. Is there going to be a maximum limit or at each site?
The goal is to a maximum limit at each site. Well, the guidelines are that we have to create a spot for any student who's unduplicated that would like to enroll. And our full count of unduplicated students in TK6 is around 1,400.
Okay.
So what we found is that not 100% obviously sign up. What's the reason for that? And we should continue to investigate how to get more of those families involved. And I think the more exciting the program is in the afternoon, the more likely and the more available. Like if it's at every site, it really was much more of an accessible program.
Right. So is there going to be built in some flexibility? Because I know that, we did try with my two daughters Think Together 1 year, but it's because once you're enrolled, you have I think they're allowed 1 day where we can pull them out early, but they have to stay until 6 o'clock. So is there any flexibility in terms of that? Maybe if there is, then parents might be able to enroll their students in without having to, stick with the restrictions.
That's good information. I think it's one of the places to reflect and adjust for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think that requirement is not a Think Together requirement, but it's an ACES requirement.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to make sure, I don't think the same rules apply to this grant, but we should double check.
Okay. But moving forward, the 3 schools that we are identifying is going to be funded, like right now that's currently has Think Together is going to still be funded through ACES. And then with this ELOP grant, it's going to be able, Think Together is running the program and there may be different criteria. Okay, great, thank you.
And just to clarify, ACES is at Schilling, Coyote Hills, and the middle school. Lincoln will not be funded through ACES, it will be funded through ELOP. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, have a great evening.
move that we approve the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program Plan.
I'll second.
How do you vote, Member Zhang?
Student member first.
Oh, sorry. Student Member Rendiz Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Zhang?
Yes.
Board Member Marquez?
Yes.
Board Member Hill?
Yes.
Board Member Grindel?
Yes.
And I myself is a yes. We have 6 yeses. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Member Zhang, for making the motion. I totally skipped over that. And on to item 4, consent calendar, personnel items.
I move that we approve 14.2 personnel report and 14.3 resolution number 2021.22.22 criteria for determining order of seniority for employees with the same date of first paid service.
May I get a second, please?
I second the motion.
Motion made by Member Zhang, seconded by Member Marquez. Member Zhang, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Marquez?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Member Grindel?
Yes.
And myself, yes, 5 ayes. Okay, on to consent calendar. We do have a public comment on item 15.5, so I will pull that. And do we have another one?
Yeah, I'm pulling 15.3 as well.
Okay, so we will pull 15.3 and 15.5. May I have a motion to approve 15.2, 15.4, and 15.6?
I move that we approve 15.2 curricular overnight trip for Lincoln Elementary 5th and 6th grade class to travel to Scotts Valley, California. 15.4 monthly purchase order report. 15.6 minutes of the January 20th, 2021 special meeting of the Board of Education.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Student Board Member Rendiz Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Zhang?
Yes.
Board Member Marquez?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Member Grindel?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. We have 6 yeses. Thank you. And then, okay, so item 15.3.
Yeah, so I guess one thing is the credential and uncredentialed teacher session on these school reports, I guess, is due to data not being released, so we have to approve with that, keeping that blank, right?
Yes, that's correct. That data has not yet been released by the state, and so we're under instructions from the county to submit the reports as is, and then as that data is released, then we add that to the reports, update them.
So I guess there will be a second, this will come back once they release the data, right? For the credential and non-credential teachers.
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it requires another approval. Do you know, Ms. Pierce?
I believe the ask is that we pull them off the website, we update, and then we repost online around March.
Okay. And there's this one question from the public regarding the reading language arts, the Lucy Calkin Common Core thing. So can you comment on whether Lucy Calkin, is this Common Core aligned or?
Ms. Pierce, you want to go ahead?
Absolutely. So yes. So Lucy Calkins is reading writing workshop. That is generally our curriculum. It's my understanding that prior to this executive cabinet, that a few years ago they also purchased Fountas Pinnell because reading writing workshop does have it sort of integrates in some of the foundational skills. Really, Lucy Calkins focuses on reading for literacy, reading for informational text, and then foundational skills. And so that includes things like phonics, word study, things like that. And so they found that it didn't quite have the explicit instruction that they were hoping for at that time. Again, I'm getting this from teachers who were teaching at that time. And so what they decided to do is add in the Fountas Pinnell, specifically the phonics and the word study programs. Fountas Pinnell is its own Common Core curriculum as well, but they added that in addition in the lower grades to really focus and get that grounding in phonics. So they are all Common Core aligned, and they focus on balanced literacy approaches.
Yeah, one last question, because several of these, for example, the Lincoln Elementary School report, under the school facility conditions and planned improvement, I mean, we listed this in, like, I guess, bad carpet interior. And then it said repair needed or action taken or planned. Are these done already, or they are in progress, or we plan to do it in the future?
Sorry, which one is this?
One example will be the Lincoln one, right? On page 6, the school facility conditions and planned improvement, interior surfaces, and I guess we listed some of the, because it was, that row is rated as fair, not good. So are these done, or these are planned?
You said you're page 6?
At page 6, the school facility conditions and planned improvement. So
Right.
this is on the Lincoln Elementary. I think we have similar one at Shielding and Coyote Hills.
And you're talking about the fair rating?
Yeah. I mean, I think the bad carpet, whatever, these actions are already done, or we plan to do that in the current year, or?
I would have to go back and check. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because it does say planned improvements, repair needed, and action taken or planned. And so for any given specific item on here, we'd have to go back and check.
Member Hill?
Yeah, thank you. So on this item, right, so the accountability item, so we had reports from a number of different schools, and I didn't look at every single report, but as some of you know, one of the reasons that I ran for this office is because of concerns around Newark Memorial High School and the performance there. And so I looked at the accountability report for Newark Memorial, and I started looking at test results. And there's two, right? There's the CASP, but those tests have not been administered. But then there's a local assessment, and I guess the instrument's called Illuminate. I'm not familiar with that. But the data that I saw that surprised me, and I just wanted to confirm that this is the case, is it said that for the high school, that only for ELA, so for English Language Arts, only 11% of the students are testing at or above grade level. It's page 11 of the Newark Memorial High School accountability report. So it says only 11% are performing at or above grade level in ELA. And then for math, it says only 10% are performing at or above grade level. And again, this is for the local assessment test results. So I wanted to confirm, am I reading this correctly?
Sorry, I'm just finding the page. Give me 1 second, please.
So the last column is the last column saying coverage percent at or above. Illuminate inspect broad coverage percent at or above grade level. That's for the.
Yeah, I think we would need to go back and look into this. You're asking like specific questions about individual data on here. So I think if you'd like, we can come back next time
Yeah, yes, please. Yeah, I mean, because if that's the case, right, that's very concerning. So if you could provide more data and context, that would be appreciated.
So at this time, since we pulled this item, I would like to recommend that we bring it back at the next board meeting with any clarifications and additional questions. Board members, if you have them, please email them to Superintendent Triplett.
if I may, President Nguyen, so these are report cards that it's a requirement by the state that we post them and share them. So if it's a question about understanding the data within it, it wouldn't change whether or not the report card gets approved. Is that correct? Or I guess I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Well, I mean, my concern is that if the data on the reports are not correct, we shouldn't post it anyways. We should make sure that the data or the information is correct before we post it on the website. Unless you want us to approve it, and like Assistant Superintendent Pierce had mentioned, that we can always bring it back and then repost it again on the website. So
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any indication that the data is not correct, but in terms of questions about specific items in specific rooms or classes at specific schools, we're not prepared to, answer detailed questions about specific things without any advance notice. But I don't have any reason to believe the data in the report is incorrect in any way.
okay.
I think if possible, I do not mind bringing more information about this particular assessment. And again, this was during distance learning. You can see right next to it, the percent not tested was 21. This was a challenging year. So I definitely, I would recommend at this point to take it as a true account. And I don't mind working with the high school to unpack that data further, and then also kind of add that to maybe some of the data that we've collected this year too, to provide a little bit more information.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I'm not disputing the data. I'm just trying to understand what it means.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, I do want to make a comment on Member Hill's point. So obviously that score, when I look at it, I feel also concerning, but to be honest, that was not totally surprising, because on math, before the pandemic, we're like 30-something%. It dropped to 10%. So it's not like we went from 95% to like 10%. So.
Member Grandal?
Yeah, I was going to move that we approve the school accountability report cards with the understanding that if there is additional information to be added, that'll be updated, and also that we'll be given a report, a little more in-depth report in the future about what's in the reports. But my motion is to approve the school accountability report cards.
May I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Motion made by Member Grandal, seconded by Member Zhang. Student Board Member sorry, I can't talk tonight. Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Marquez?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Member Grandal?
Yes.
Myself, yes, also. We have 6 yeses. Thank you. All right, item 15.5, we do have a public comment. Ms. Croce?
Thank you. We have Mr. Eric Tam. Mr. Tam, if you would like to unmute, you may begin.
Hello, hi board. This will be a quick one. I was just digging into this specific contract. So if I guess Ms. Delacruz could do, Ms. Delacruz, if I understand correctly, the chain of events that have happened on June, so all of these contracts are using the COVID resolution where they basically skip over the board and you guys have authorization to approve these contracts regardless of amount or a finite amount. June 17th, you brought to the agenda or the board for, the tabs, Alpha Air, testing contract. I think all 3 components added up to around 260,000. In September 2nd, Mr. Metin Sertunk presented to the board about the final results and all the actions that you took. I think I found on October 7th, you provided to the board change order 1 and change order 2. And then the original amount was, so the breakdown is original 16,000, change order 1 was 26,000, and change order 2 was another 23,000, I think, or 20-something thousand. So I actually missed this back in October, but while reading the contract today, it was interesting to see the breakdown of original versus change order in change order 3, which is 11,500. I guess the question I have for Ms. Delacruz is on September 2nd, Mr. Metin Sertunk presented and wrote in his presentation that all remedial work had been completed. And during the presentation, he actually addressed Member Grindle that the mechanical contractor and the Sizer Co. Were already contracted to fix any additional issues. So it seems that we have broken our original allotment. So if you look at the you're up to 300% overage on the original budget. This is, I guess you originally budgeted 80 hours, but now it's up to, I guess, 3 times that. I guess, board, you might want to dig into the procurement financial controls related to just how much ongoing money you are willing to spend. Because on September 2nd, all remedial work should have been done, and additional, I guess, support should have been part of the contract for the $260,000 that they presented to you on June 17th. But now you're up to 300% in change orders and $70,000 total. So you might want to dig into that. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Tam. Any comments or questions from the board? May I get a motion to approve item 15.5?
I move that we approve item 15.5.
May I get a second?
I second.
Student Board Member Rendiz Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Zhang?
Yes.
Board Member Marquez?
Yes.
Board Member Hill?
No.
Board Member Grindel?
Yes.
And myself is yes. We have 5 ayes and one no, with Member Hill stating no. Okay, on to item 16.1, Board of Education recognitions and announcements. Student Board Member Rendiz Ortiz.
I would like to again recognize all the teachers in our district who are doing a lot of work helping students through their absences because of Omicron or outside of winter break, and teaching us the best they can.
Board Member Zhang?
Yeah, I want to echo student board members' comment on the teachers. I'm glad that it looks like the peak is over, so brighter days should be ahead. And in addition, for the, I guess, roughly 20% of the newer residents that celebrate Lunar New Year, I just want to say Happy New Year.
Member Marquez?
Thank you. I would like at this time to go ahead and give an extra shout out to the support staff at the sites, the behind the scenes, right? From our custodial staff all the way through the clerks and the attendance clerks who get to hear, the parents and the calls and listening to everyone's situation at this time, especially since we're still within the COVID. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and recognize all of our support staff and thank them for what they do for us.
Member Hill?
I echo student member and member Zhang and member Marquez.
Member Grindel?
I'm going to echo Member Hill and echoing my other board members. And also, I'll directly say Happy Lunar New Year to everyone, and just how excited we are to be celebrating Black History Month, and looking forward to that being integrated in our curriculum and to the teaching that we're doing. So applaud all the staff for embracing that. Thank you.
I know I'm on the hot spot now, but I do very much support all the comments that my board members have made in regards to the support for our staff. Our clerical staff have been amazing. I know that there's been so many changes in terms of COVID information, new guidelines, and everybody has to be on top of it. And yes, there will be occasional, lapse in information, but everybody's been working really, really hard and trying to make sure that all the students and families have been taken care of during this time. And just wanted to also thank all the teachers for all their continued hard work during this time. And then also I want to give a huge shout out to the student leadership in our schools, especially our student-led initiatives by our high school students for the gender identity town hall. I think it was really well done and very emotional, and I've learned so much too in that whole presentation. So I'm here to support and be an ally to student voices, and I'm very proud of you, student board member, for your voice and advocacy, and just embracing or making sure that our students at the high school are embracing kindness and inclusiveness through the whole throughout their school and throughout their life. So bringing that knowledge and education to the student population and to also us, to the teachers and as the rest of us adults. So I think it was well done. So great job to you. And then lastly, happy Lunar New Year. And I'm, again, just really excited that it is the beginning of Black History Month for our students to be able to learn about our Black leaders and all of the work that our Black community is doing in our communities also. Thank you. Okay, on to Board of Education Committee reports. Is there any report from the Mission Valley Regional Occupational Center program?
Meeting was held last month. Nothing to report.
Nothing for SELBA either.
Anything for Newark Teacher Induction Advisory Council?
No updates at this time.
And then the Audit Committee?
Yes, so we held our first audit committee meeting for this year, this past Monday, and we reviewed the preliminary audit results, and so those will be shared with the board shortly, I think in the next meeting. And then we also seated a new member, Member Marquez, and then we are in the process of conducting an appointment process for the public members, both voting and non-voting. And we're expected to meet again in early March to see what candidates we get and make a selection and then a recommendation to the board at large, and then we'll go from there.
And then there's a tentative meeting for the Bond and Parcel Tax Committee on February 8th.
Sorry, President Nguyen. It's been, oh, sorry, you said the bond. Never mind. Ignore me. I'll turn off my mic now.
Okay, no worries. And then lastly, the City of NUSD Liaison Committee with City of Newark. Our meeting in January got canceled, but we will be rescheduling shortly.
That's the tentative one for February 23rd. But
okay. Thank you, Superintendent Triplett. Okay, on to item 16.3, Board of Education requests. Student board member, do you have any requests this time?
Not at the moment.
Member Zhang?
Yes, follow up from last 2 weeks ago, we have this dispute with whether the public member is still a member on the audit committee. So I did, obviously, superintendent shared the audit committee charter, and before that, I actually did read the charter agreement. It does feel like the language says the term will end on the January 2 years after the appointment, or when the board appoints a new member, whichever is later. So in that case, I guess, although we didn't vote in February 2021, last year at this time, I guess that public member's term continues because the board didn't really vote for another term. But I also realized on our website, it looks like the application is open for the public member. Does that mean that this current public member will her term will terminate when the board selects a new member, or will that her tenure run through the end of the January?
Can I answer that? Yeah. So I think that we discovered as we went through the audit charter that there's the language is confusing, and I think that there's gaps in it and in a lot of areas. And one part of the audit charter requires us to revisit the audit charter on a regular basis. And so that's going to be one of the things that we do this year, is to actually go in and see where we need to do updates. But basically the protocol that we're following right now is that the existing public members are still considered to be in their positions, but we're conducting a formal appointment process right now that was effective, I guess, Tuesday, the starting, and then according to the charter, it says that you have 30 days essentially to give notice and then make a decision. And so we're going through that process, and then we're expecting to meet again in early March, see what applicants we have, interview, make a decision and recommendation to be brought to the board for ratification. And then we'll see, it could be the same people again, it could be different people, we don't know.
Well, I guess the clear thing is if this is the same person again, then she will only have 1 year left on the term, because if I'm correct, she was appointed in 2015.
It's 5 terms.
4 terms, I believe, based on the term. So it's 8
Point
years.
of order, we're having a discussion.
Okay.
Is there a request, Member Zhang?
No, second. So not question on this. I have a second one. It's more like a general, unrelated, more like a general comment. So obviously we're in tough financial situation, but just like I mentioned before, that highly functioning board members spend most of the time focusing on academic excellence. So I hope that going forward, this board can continue in this direction. And I really feel like, I mean, I'm not saying other items like construction project or like change order are not important. I think when you see our academic performance impacted by the pandemic at a level that's very concerning, I think spending a lot of time on other issues is really like trying to fix the air conditioning system on a sinking Titanic.
Thank you. Member Marquez?
None at this time, ma'am. Thank you for asking.
Member Hill?
Yeah, just bringing back what we had discussed before. So would like to request that staff bring back for the middle school design, so a comprehensive project plan and Gantt chart, not high level, right? I mean, I think we want to see really the detail because there's lots of moving parts.
I will second that request.
And I will third, so you have consensus, Member Hill. Okay, thank you. And then last time when I was up at the podium, I skipped over Vice President Grindell, so I won't do it this time. So, Member Grindell, do you have any requests?
I don't.
I actually do have one, but it's not a request. We did make this request at a prior board meeting, but I just wanted to get if we could get a follow-up and as to when we will be presented with the information, and that's just the detailed information on the projects in terms of the budget breakdown. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And item 17.1, Superintendent concluding comments, updates, and future agenda items.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you for the request. So what I heard, the project plan for the middle school design and HVAC budget breakdown, and I think those are the two. We're also, we still have on the docket to bring back the IT assessment. Not quite sure if it'll happen at this upcoming board meeting, but please expect it in the near future. And then I would like to echo President Wen in her appreciations, particularly for Member Resendiz-Ortiz and the student leadership at the memorial. The town hall for gender identity was just so inspiring and powerful. And like President Wen said, I think the adults learned tons, and I think everybody learned a lot. And at the end, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house either. It was like very, very touching. So thank you, Member Resendiz-Ortiz.
Okay, with that, may I get approval for adjournment?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Motion made by Member Zhang, seconded by Member Marquez. How do you vote, Student Member
Yes.
Resendiz-Ortiz? Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Marquez?
Yes.
Member Hill?
Yes.
Member Grindell?
Yes.
And myself is yes. We have 6 ayes. Meeting adjourned at 9:16 p.m.